For more on APEC and that upcoming meeting between Presidents Xi and Biden, we're joined now by political and economic affairs commentator Einar Tangen. Einar, let's begin with that Xi-Biden virtual meeting on Monday. As we heard earlier, there has been quite a lot leading up to it. What do you think we'll see unfold, and what are some of the expectations and goals of this virtual meeting?
Well, I imagine that that was the topic of conversation during that 6-hour meeting between Jake Sullivan and the Chinese representative. As Nathan King outlined, there's been a lot of darkness over the last couple of years. The question is there any glimmer of light? And I think so. I mean, both Catherine Tai, the U.S. trade representative, and Jake Sullivan have acknowledged that China isn't going to change. But they appear to be going at it kind of crabwise, sideways. They keep talking about, U.S. aspirations and how the U.S. is going to lead the world and things like this. But this is a very positive sign, especially with this climate accord that they have signed. But over the last few weeks, barring what comes out of COP26, it seems that there have been a lot of promises, a lot of commitments, but very little action. And I think the world is at some point going to wake up to the fact that there has to be action. There just cannot be commitments. You look at what was said earlier: 1.7 billion vaccines distributed by China. At the same time, the U.S. has struggled to reach 200 million donated to other countries.
Do you think this could lead to more engagement between these leaders? Without a pandemic, we know that they would have seen each other by now on the sidelines of several world events in recent months, UNGA, COP26, and then the G20, for example. So some face-to-face time had we not been in this pandemic.
No, I don't know that the face-to-face time is necessary at this point. It would be good when things settle down. Obviously, we're still in the midst of the pandemic. It might be trailing off, or people are decided to live with it. But it's a very real danger. I think Xi is trying to lead by example. And, there's still some, a lot of distance between them. I mean, obviously, Xi has talked a lot about trying to avoid a Cold War. Meanwhile, you keep hearing Biden talking about a free and open Indo-Pacific, as if there's any threat to trade in that area. Quite the opposite. China is trying to increase it, and that's what was the message to APEC.
Turning to APEC, what did you make of going back on President Xi's message to APEC and the biggest takeaways? Normally, this is a gathering where trade is the focus, business gatherings with lots of corporations, but the pandemic, again, seems to be the focus of this meeting this year.
Well, yes. I mean, China's approach has always been that, you cannot have economic recovery until you have figured out COVID-19, and that means vaccines. That's the only way in which these countries can, stabilize and have a reliable economic future. But you also have debt involved. There has to be increased trade. Obviously, ASEAN is looked to as a bright spot on the economic, future in terms of growth and things like this. But it's not going to happen by itself. There has to be increased investment, as was indicated by Xi. It's not clear what the U.S. is going to do. Biden talked about, a great opportunity. Climate change is a great opportunity for investments in ASEAN, but he offered no specifics.